Hello, it's a beautiful day outside, plus 7 degrees out here, which is not normal for our January. Cows are coming back to water, and I wanted to show you how we bale graze our cattle. How we set up all our hay at once, and we don't use any equipment to feed the hay all winter. So if you come with me, I'll explain why we do this, how we do it, some of the challenges we've had, and some things we do differently. So first of all, as you can see here, I'll turn around the camera. We have temporary poly wire stretched out in lanes all the way from one end of the field down to the other. Now we stretched all that out after the bales were set up before winter. That way the posts, they're just temporary step-in posts for electric fencing. That way the posts set up easily. We could do the work in the fall when it was not winter. Nice time to do the work. And then they all just froze in when winter came. So I'm not fighting trying to set up the alleys. So if you have enough wire, you probably have some poly reels and some posts, go ahead and set out the wire. We've got it set up here. 3 bales over. 3 bales over there. There's another roll of wire, so that allows us to have alleys of 3 bales wide. Here come the cows back from getting a drink. That's one other thing. We don't have any water set up out here. The water is set up at the house, but we have an alleyway that the cattle can walk to all the way back and get water every day. So what we're standing in is what was previously grazed. You can see, if I turn this around, underneath everything is a bunch of old manure patties. And those are spread out completely evenly from one end of the field all the way to the other. So we were bale grazing all the way as far as these bales were, as well as once over. So we're about halfway through the season, and as you can see here under the trails they make, the poop is evenly distributed. So that's the reason. There are 2 main reasons why we chose to bale graze. Number 1 is that it eliminated our equipment costs virtually. So we don't own a tractor, we don't plan to, we're just starting up a farm. What we did was we lined up all the truckers and all the farmers with their hay to come on the same day. And in doing that, we hired one guy with a skid steer to come and lay out all of these bales. And we just laid them all out in the field, all in one day. It was less than $1,000 to feed all my hay for a year. Contrast that to buying a tractor, paying for the loan or the opportunity cost, fixing the tractor, having to start it. So there's one thing we don't even need. So that was probably one of the biggest reasons why we went to bale grazing. And number 2 is for land improvement. I think the land will be better off for having the manure all spread out here instead of me, again, having to use equipment to bring it all out of the corrals at the end of the season. All of this is spread out evenly. And it's quite a sight when the snow is melted all the way along. You can see really well in my other video of another rancher who showed me how to do this, what it looks like in the spring. So fertility spreads out the manure and urine all evenly throughout the ground. And then, yes, there's gonna be some leftover. Granted, this is what it looks like a couple days ago. This is where 1, 2, 3 bales were. And all you can see is poop and urine and a little bit of straw and chaff and stems. And the best part of that is water infiltration. So that's the other main reason we're getting water infiltration. When the water hits this now, it's gonna be slowed down. It's not gonna be able to just run off down the hill, and it's gonna soak into the ground. So we've seen people say they've doubled their forage production the next year just after bale grazing, and I believe that's due to better water infiltration and organic matter, plus all the manure. right? When you spread manure out, it gets better. Now imagine it all is put right here once. It's not being sprayed into the air and handled twice. All the urine gets soaked in. So here's what's most recent. Let's check out what I fed 3 days ago, and it's lasted almost 3 days now, probably gonna be 4. So here is in the middle. So there's hay everywhere. You can see the cows are just munching away. It's a beautiful day. I can tell they've had their fill when they all come for water. This is another bale they've destroyed. So it looks like a ton of waste now, and it is a lot on the ground. But in a couple days, or before I move on, it's gonna look like that, where most of it's taken down. And all you have to do is you wait. So the practical points of the bale grazing is expose 1 bale for every 10 cows. So we have just over 30 cows. We let them at 3 bales at a time. That's why we've made our alleys 3 bales wide. And then that gives them room so that a cow can circle every single bale. Number 2 is watch your bale spacing. If you look here, the bales were placed in the center there and the center there, and just barely is all the manure and the leftover residue touching. What we did on the last ring before that is we had them even wider. And you can see, here's our spacing. Probably 4 bales of spacing in between the bales. I would bump that up to even 5 or 6 in between, just because then it'll spread it out a little wider, and then the cows have some fresh snow to lay in when they're at the edge of it. And I think this might be a little bit heavily concentrated. There's small circles in the middle. I'm gonna stretch that out next year, but stay tuned in the spring, and throughout the year we'll video how this all comes back and see how it improves there. So then what we do is we have a back wire. Right here, we just have more step-in posts, and we just cross the fence here. And you can see this cow, she's picking at grass under the snow, but she will not touch this wire, even though it's off and been off for most of the day, because they've been trained. So that's the other key. Make sure your cows are trained to this. It's worked very well for us because we have all electric fence. All the summer they use electric fence, so they respect it. Another tip is put a electric wire somewhere near your watering bowl, maybe splitting it in 2, maybe along one side. That's what I have, and it makes the cows, when they're all pushing and ramming each other near the water, the odd one will bump into it or see it, and it makes them respect it more. It keeps it fresh in their mind and keeps them well trained. The other thing with these posts is, so my long runs all the way down, dividing it all up, I put in the fall. But these posts, I use 3 at a time going across. Those I just put in during the winter. They're just step-in posts. As you can see here, I barely had it in the ground. And all I do is I come, these are good posts. If they're a little cheaper, it might not work, but you can also sharpen the tips of the posts. I haven't even had to do that. But all you gotta do is gotta step it in, just like that. I got it in maybe an inch in the ground. All it has to do is hold the wire up. It's not holding the cows back. That's what the shock is for. And then I just move it back. We're at the end of the line here, but if I were in the middle of my next row, I would have another wire set up already ahead of time behind the next row, and that's the backup wire. Just in case they do push this over, or they fight it, or what I've had is they push the hay over, the hay falls on the wire, and then they get through. Just put another wire behind the next row of bales, and then that way if they bust through, they're not going to bust through all of them. So that's the other thing we've done. What we've learned is we've fed in minus 40 degrees Celsius. This is up in Canada. This works well in Canada. I don't think it would work so well somewhere in the southern states where it thaws a lot. Our advantage is that the ground freezes solid in the winter. But the colder it is, in minus 40, just give them more hay. I've calculated my cows go through about 1 bale a day. So every 3 days I gotta just come out here and move the wire. But when it's colder, give them a little extra hay. And they'll do what they did here. they'll make a big pile of it, and then they'll lay in it. Give them some extra, they'll eat it. And I found they clean it up better when it's cold than when it's warm. There's more waste when it's cold. But just don't listen to them when they're bawling. They haven't even really bawled much at all when I've tried to stretch it just a day or so, or just a few hours until the afternoon to make them clean it up more. They'll go pick other stuff. They'll clean it up really good. So here you can see the end result. And here's my bales here. Another thing, make sure in your big division, when you're setting them up, just make a big space in between. I should have left more space every 3 when you know what your alleys are going to be. And that way you have more space for your wire. Another thing, let's talk about labor and the labor advantages. You can see I've taken all of the twines off ahead of time. Every single twine on every single bale we've taken off. And that's so that we can do the hard work in summer or in the fall when it's not so cold out, when it's easy, and because your twines will freeze down to the ground. So we've rolled them all off. We had a bit of harder time getting net wrap off. We had to roll the bale off, pull it out and roll it back. So if you can, try to get twine bales, but we pull off all our twine ahead of time, and then all the labor takes is every 3 days. It takes me 20 minutes to walk out here, roll up the wire. I already have the back wire set up, so the cows just flow to the next row of bales, and then I set up my wire behind that to the next row. That's really it. So you have the time savings, the labor is easy. My wife can do it. She doesn't have to worry about throwing large square bales or hand bombing feed or starting a big tractor. She can come out, and she has fed the cows frequently, even when I'm at work or something. You'll also see, so on top of saving equipment, the labor is very efficient, and we believe it's better for the land. So this is our program. This is what we've learned. You're going to get a little bit of deer coming in and busting open some hay. It's not a huge deal to me. Just maybe keep track of that to know how often that is and account for your inventory. But yeah, this is the way we've done it. I'm tired of people asking me, how do you feed cows without a tractor? This is how we do it. We hire it out once, get it all laid out, and then you're done. So there you go. Make sure to check out my other videos. I got another video of this bale grazing. I'm sure there's a million questions. Let me know in the comments what you think, and we can talk more about what you want to know. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Bye.